We're live. Good evening, all. This is True Temper Rocket and Cyrus Stark. This is a Quickshot episode. We're just gonna discuss a few things and a few issues, and it's kind of a clusterfuck of a podcast, but it's gonna be fun. And if anybody joins us tonight, I hope you enjoy it. We're just gonna talk all things MMA, good and bad, and just talk about the sport we all love. Anyways, Jim, you got anything to say before we begin?
Well, no, I don't. No.
All right, cool. Well, I thought we could start by discussing the latest comments from Dana White and his intention to move into boxing. And I mean, he's been wearing a Zuffa boxing T-shirt quite a bit lately, and like what you think about that. And
Well, I read a little bit about it, and in fact, I read a posting that you put up about it.
right.
And what?
No, I'm saying right.
Yeah, and I think, well, I wasn't shocked or anything because I think we talked about this some days ago, but I posted I posted your post in another community, and then got some feedback on it from some hardcore fringe. Let's see, what do you call them? Oh, casual fans. Not really hardcore fans, but casual fans. Of
Right.
course, the casual fans are the people that spend the money. That's the money that Dana's going after with crap like this. And he, of course, the responses I got, the people were indignant that I would suggest that the UFC is going in the wrong direction. So, G Plus is full of young kids and kids that like sensation and action and WWE trash and that kind of stuff. And of course, they're going to want Dana White and the UFC to go into this boxing crap. And hence, and I also pointed out that if the UFC takes that direction, then they're going to be ignoring their MMA athletes,
Exactly.
essentially, and the sport. And of course, right now, the way it stands, the athletes they're getting hosed every day, except for the ones with the big mouths, and can sell pay-per-views and to fringe people.
Thank God for like him, man. Did you see his interview today? It was I'm really glad. Like, guys are starting to speak up, but like none more so than Jorge Masvidal. Like, that guy just does not give a shit. He'll say what he thinks, and he was talking about.
But which guy is this you're talking about, Cyrus?
His name's Jorge Masvidal.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, I love that dude, man. He actually started his career with Kimbo Slice. He fought in the same, I
didn't know that.
Yeah, the what they call them, dog fights or whatever. The backyard fights, and he fought on boats. He fought on yachts, and he's as real and as tough as they come. And he was going on about Reebok and saying it was time for it to go away because it's just bullshit. Said they're robbing the fighters blind, and it's like it's ridiculous, Said it's time for something to happen because it's no good for anyone. It's really no good for anyone. It makes the UFC supposedly the biggest, greatest MMA promotion ever, and they are the most successful one. But they've been successful for everyone but the fighters. And he's saying it makes them look bush league, and it is. Those kind of moves are bush league, and it's embarrassment to the sport, to men and women who bleed blood, sweat, and tears.
I think a good analogy of the UFC for the way they treat their fighters is like is the way a worker or anybody treats their shoes.
Yep.
They use them during the day to make money, and then they take them off at night and throw them in a corner and let them stink.
Exactly.
You know, that's. I mean, I really mean that. And if
Oh,
you
it's
stop
true.
to think about that analogy, it
They let
just
them rot.
I get a little emotional about it myself.
Oh, you and me both, bro. There's a reason this
Uh,
is called Soul of a Fighter.
yeah, I just I every time I think, and then this bullshit about the what Dane is saying about John Jones, how he's worthless and yada yada yada. You know, if
Oh,
John
jeez.
Jones somehow, if he somehow was unsuspended tomorrow,
Yeah.
Dana would be all over him like a cheap suit.
He'd be riding his dick like there was no tomorrow,
Yeah,
man. I
right.
don't.
You're riding his
No, he
dick.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would. He really would. He'd still like say some passive aggressive, self righteous, hypocritical shit. But that's what he is, man. It's like
Well,
some
why don't you
people.
just come out and say he's a cocksucker?
Lately,
Because he is.
he's doing the best. I mean, I always gave him a little largesse. I always tried to give him the benefit of the doubt for years. And I wasn't like one of those, oh yeah, Dana, you tell him. But I had a lot of respect and gratitude for the fact that he saw something in this company when it was going under, it was going broke, and he did something about it. And he really, he did a great job. And so did the Fertitas, and so did all the countless. But nobody worked harder. Nobody, like, for all his savvy and his passion, no one worked harder for the success of the UFC. No one contributed more than the fighters. Whether they're the top or the bottom, these guys bled, had broken bones, countless bones bled out for our entertainment, and that's why the UFC is where it is today. And he just doesn't get it. And I mean,
Yeah.
either he doesn't get it or he willfully ignores it. I mean, he said
Well,
some of the most,
wouldn't
yeah,
wouldn't you say, Cyrus, that in the beginning, the very beginning,
yeah.
that the fighters were giving back, even though they were breaking bones and getting cut up uh, and such like that, still they were giving back.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah, they were. Like at
No,
first,
and today, who gives back?
nobody, nobody,
Yeah,
nobody
right.
gives back. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's all
even
money.
yeah, it's all about the money. If you don't make the money, but the thing is, this is how stupid it is, how ignorant it is. Like, there's other ways to make money. Every fighter is worth something, and every fighter brings something because it's not just about the numbers on the pay-per-views. It's like, to have great pay-per-views, you need fillers, you need content. Like, this is not boxing where you can have 2 or 3 fights. Like, you need a 14 fight card, or at least a 10 fight card. So every
Yeah,
fighter has his value. Even if he won't sell one single pay-per-view on his own, he still has value. Any
yeah,
fighter who is known for getting into bloody brawls where blood will flow, because there is a public for that, is worth something, is valuable, because there is name recognition, or there's at least, like, it's ridiculous. Like, he goes on about how, oh yeah, McGregor, Connor, he's on a whole other level. But I can tell you something: Connor wouldn't be where he is today if it wasn't for the Robbie Lawlers and the Rory McDonalds, because that card's
absolutely,
remembered. That one at UFC
absolutely.
189 will always be remembered as that, for that
Have
blood drenched piece of
which
beauty.
brings to mind, have you noticed lately every one of the public photographs that is
Yeah,
published depicting McGregor, he's got a smile on his face, or he's dressed impeccably
yeah,
and conservatively, and he looks like a nice guy. Have you
yeah.
noticed that lately?
Well, to me, he looks like a rent boy, but yeah, 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 I've noticed that. That's the PR
Well,
machine, isn't it?
well, he he's not. He's not. Usually, if you see a picture of McGregor, he's got his mouth open and he's yelling and screaming about something or another. But
Yeah, yeah,
lately, I haven't seen any of that. He's making his
yeah.
move, and
Well,
he wants a piece of the UFC.
that's very, it's very, It's a really great comment you just made. Like, you very
Well,
observant of you. You're right.
it's as
He's trying to
plain.
come up. Yeah,
It's just terribly plain to me,
yeah.
Cyrus.
It's obvious and it's insulting. Like, if it's not because you're smiling, it's not because you're getting dressed. Like, clothes don't make the man. That's one thing that little dick never understood. And besides, like, he's gotten, I mean, he's always been, but now he's on a whole other level of bullshit. Like, this guy, it's just it's embarrassing. I feel embarrassed for him sometimes because he's ridiculous. It's like, who the fuck, what does he think, like, okay, fine, ask for it, but at the same time, like, why the fuck do you think you're worth being a promoter? Why? Because you make a lot of money. It's like, you can't promote with the UFC because it's just like, already there's a huge amount of conflict of interest. They've done stuff that's like right on the line of illegal for Connor. They've allowed him to do stuff. They've allowed him to, they've basically mortgaged their whole company, their whole ethics just for him. Like, one thing about the UFC is, you're a champion, you defend. If you don't defend, you get stripped. They completely ignored that for him twice over. I mean, the fucking lightweight title, the fucking lightweight division is just, it's a mess right now because, like, we shouldn't even have an interim lightweight. Tony is the lightweight champion. He should have never fought for the lightweight belt in the first place. They've completely, yeah,
That's right.
they betrayed themselves. They mortgaged their own future. They completely betrayed their own ethos and
And lately,
future for
McGregor has been making these announcements that my team and I are considering. Yeah. Okay, we are considering whether we should take the Diaz fight or whether we should take the Ferguson thing or whether we should do something else. Okay, it's like
ragtag
he's the
bat.
guy making a decision,
Yeah,
and
of course,
and it's like he's speaking as though he is in charge of the UFC. That's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah, well, basically it's funny, but like, all the greats, whether they were superstars or they were their champions, they helped build the UFC. If there's one person the UFC can say, like, we made him, it's Nick Leprechaun. It's not because I don't like him, it's just the truth. They shoved him down everybody's throats. They lied about him in a way to make him bigger and seem better than he was. They put pressure on the press. I mean, the press were all into it too, most of them. They got him to shoot up the rankings, the pound for pound rankings. The guy's not even a top 10 pound for pound fighter. Let's be honest, for his results, for like what he's done, like his like all the nonsense surrounding him, he's not a top 10 pound for pound fighter. But they've gone so far into the WWE shtick that now we have a lightweight champion who literally could be beaten by anyone in the top 5. And I'm really being kind to him here, because I honestly believe,
according to McGregor, you're full of shit.
Yeah, well, of course. According to McGregor, everybody's full of shit but him. And according to McGregor, according to Mick Leprechaun, or Mick Ballsack as you call him, he was on his way to winning. He was Rob versus Mayweather. Like, he was actually beating the shit out of Mayweather. I mean, this guy, the level of delusion is just unbelievable. The level of collusion from Dana White, from the people around him, is just, I mean, he's going to turn into MMA's answer to version of Michael Jackson. People surrounded by yes men. I mean, not just yes men, people who actually, like, just fill your head with absolute bullshit, delusional bullshit. And one day, like, it's getting to a point where I used to actually worry about him, like, think, oh man, like, when he finally gets his, it's going to be horrible. Like, the fall is going to be bad. And like, I hope it doesn't get too bad. I hope, but now I'm actually going to enjoy it. Like, everybody's got their breaking point. Everybody's got their limit. It's just been so full of shit. It's been so much faggotry, just plain old faggotry. This is nothing to do against, I'm not homophobe. I'm just saying faggotry as in nonsense, as in bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to the point where I'm actually going to enjoy him getting his head kicked in. Like, like at least he's going to get his head kicked in, get some brain
but
damage, and
he's not going to put himself into a position to be humiliated. He already
yeah,
did
because
that
he's a coward.
for a lot of
He's a
money.
coward. Yeah, well, he
Well,
did that. The thing is,
may
it works both ways, Jim. It works both ways, doesn't it?
yeah,
On the one
Mayweather made
hand,
him look like a fool, but McGregor, he walked out of there with $100 million.
he did,
Uh,
and I don't know if he actually walked out of there with
but
a. I mean, I don't care about.
if he fights Tony,
Mm.
and I think Tony will beat him, he
Oh,
won't
I'm
look
convinced.
foolish. He won't look foolish.
Oh,
He'll
he
just look
will.
beaten.
No, but the
Well,
thing is,
he'll be beaten.
oh yeah, the whole narrative they'll change to, oh, he was injured, or Tony, he should have never fought Tony, because all of a sudden Tony, Dana White's going to start telling everybody that Tony's 9 foot tall and a monstrous and not human, like he did with Nate Diaz. Like Nate Diaz is a huge man. Like, did you ever see that video of him trying to convince Luke Thomas? Luke Thomas is a huge bear of a man. I mean, we're talking about 6'4", 6'5", 270 pounds of just pure American muscle. He's an ex-Marine. He's just a big man, and he's trying to convince, by all intents and purposes, just by looking at him, a heavyweight, that Nate Diaz is bigger than him. Like, Nate Diaz is a monstrous, monstrous man. Like, Nate Diaz isn't even a welterweight. He's a lightweight. He's a very tall and lanky
Yeah.
lightweight, but that's about as good as you get. And he's just doing his best to convince him. And he actually follows Luke Thomas into the backstage, and it's just like still trying to convince him. Like, I've seen, I've stood next to Nate Diaz so many times, and I can tell you he's bigger than you. And Luke Thomas is like, how? How is he bigger than me? I said, I'm bigger than you, Dana, and you're bigger than Nate. Like, Nate might be taller than you, but taller don't mean bigger. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's just embarrassing. And yeah, he'll do shit like that. But the thing is,
No, but Dana talks like that,
yeah,
and then his pay-per-view fringe part-time listeners and buyers, they love it. They believe
yeah, of
it.
course they do. Of course they do, because there's less and less of them these days, but there's still enough of them. I mean, I guess they've been replaced by the McGregor fan brigade, the bandwagon jumpers, who are just awful, the worst kind of people. I mean, there's times when I'm just looking at them, listening to some of their comments, reading their comments. I try not to anymore, but I'm thinking, like, where the fuck is Al Qaeda when you need it, man? It's just like, fuck. Oh, Jesus Christ. But, like, this is not MMA. This has nothing to do with MMA. The way these people talk, what they think. I mean, they couldn't even tell you who GSP is. GSP is the greatest welterweight, if not the greatest fighter to have ever lived. And they couldn't even tell you who he is. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's some bald-headed dude who's going to fight that.
Well, I had a interesting conversation online with a guy once, and I just joined his MMA community. And I told him, I said, look, I don't know a lot about MMA, but I'm looking to learn, and I'll post what I can about what I feel I know about. And he said, don't worry about it, man. He said, post as much as you can. I said, well, I kind of like to try to be intelligent about what I post. He said, it doesn't matter, man. He says, all the shit that I post, I don't know what it is. I don't know shit about MMA. He said that to me. I don't know shit about MMA. And here was the owner of the community, an MMA community, telling me that he didn't know shit about MMA. But what he did know everything about was Conor McGregor.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. It's just, I don't know what to say sometimes. It's embarrassing. And, like, we've had some bullshit in other sports, but still, like, it's getting worse than other sports. I mean, I love the sport, but the fact that it's so free, it's so open, sometimes when it goes the wrong way, when one person goes the wrong way, he can go way further, because there's less structure than, like, say, NBA or NFL or the whatever else, the MLB. Like, they have a structure. It doesn't matter how famous you get. If you get to if you get to the playoffs, you still have to beat your opponents to move on to the next round. And you're not going to get to the final just because you're the most famous player or the most famous teams. Like the New York Yankees are the biggest team in baseball, yet they have to, they have to have a winning record to get to the playoffs, or they have to squeeze in by the skin of their teeth if they don't. If they make it, then
well,
they have to. Yeah.
They have to produce.
Exactly. Whereas in the UFC, I won't say MMA, but in the UFC, you can get gifted your spot. You can get gifted a title shot sometimes, just on like, oh, you're famous, or you've got like, I don't know, you've got like, oh my God, you've almost got 1 million Twitter followers. Here's a title shot, or here's a belt, or whatever. And it's going too far, man. Like it's getting to the point where it's like, yeah, it's pro wrestling shtick. And I mean, even pro wrestling, when I was a kid, I never took it as a sport. I loved it. I enjoyed it. The characters were awesome. But now it's not fun anymore. I can't watch it because it's almost, no, it's not almost, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. Some greased up dummies talking absolute shit. And I'm talking about some of these greased up dummies are actually really talented athletes. Like there's this one, I can't remember, Dirk Diggler, I think his name is, or Ziggler, Dolph Ziggler. That guy is one of the all-time greatest. Yeah, I know Dirk Diggler from Boogie Nights. No, it's Dolph Ziggler or Dolph. Yeah, Dolph Ziggler, and that guy's one of the all-time greatest college wrestlers. He's broken records. Like this guy was amazing. So like he acts like Akon's a dummy on like I actually watched a whole pay-per-view show, and he was there and he was just acting like the dumbest fuck ever. But I mean, in his private, I mean, like the real him is actually an awesome athlete that could like wrestle the fuck out of you. So it's weird, man. It's really fucking weird. And that's what this is the direction they've been going in. They've been going in under WME William Morris for the last year and a half. And it's getting really not even annoying, just depressing, because this is not what MMA is about. MMA is about meritocracy. You eat what you kill. Doesn't matter if you're handsome. Doesn't matter if you're pretty. Doesn't matter how ugly you are. It doesn't matter if your style suits, the Twitter followers or the fringe. If you're the best, you get to the top. And if you continue training hard, you stay at the top for as long as you want, just like GSP did, just like John Jones did, or even Anderson Silva, Ronda. And then when somebody's like catches up to you, knocks you the fuck out, then they get to be on the top. But like nowadays, no matter how good you are, there's guys who can't even get to the top because they're not famous enough and all that bullshit. And I mean, like no one's worse than Michael Bisping. Like that guy is just a nightmare. He was added again today. He's an embarrassment. He's always been an embarrassment to the sport. But I mean, as a champion, like having him as a champion makes the UFC look so bad. And they lost so much respect. Because they allowed him to do this shit. And he's gonna fight GSP this weekend, this Saturday. And I mean, I hope he beats him, but I believe GSP will just toy with it because GSP is a true champion. GSP is an all-time great. Michael Bisping is just lucky to be where he is. And he's making a mockery of his belt, of the belt. No, it's not his belt, of the belt, of the middleweight. And I mean, you look at the champions, the monsters that have held that belt with distinction and skill, and it's beggars belief to see that. And McLeprechaun ain't far behind because I mean he's a better fighter than Michael Bisping. He's not as complete, but he's a better fighter and he's got better personality, of course, which is what got him where he is. But the fact that he's trying every way to weasel out of it is just it's a bad look. It's a really bad look. Like Jordan. I almost said Michael Jackson. Jesus Christ. Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan was like lording it over the NBA, like breaking records every day. What if he'd said, oh, you know what? I don't want to play the Jazz in the finals. I want to play, the Lakers every year because, that will break broadcast records. And it would have. but he fought, he played, he faced what was there. It's just that's the way it works. And I mean, for them to say they're
Well,
moving into boxing,
it's a different culture.
yeah, they would have. You know what? It's funny that now they're choosing to move into boxing, and it's very revealing because there's a lot of things they did that was better than boxing. And I'm not saying they were a better sport than boxing. I love boxing. I've grown up watching it, and I have a passion for the pugilism, the pugilistic arts, the sweet science. I'm telling you. But the thing is, for a long time, boxing did itself no favors with the corruption, with the everybody dodging everybody. There's always a period of time between greats where people just like look out for the bottom line, look out for their own interests. And usually those guys are promoters because they have a superstar or they have a guy that could be a superstar. So they try and pad his record for as long as they can and wait out like their biggest rival. That happens all the time in boxing. And it's a shame. But right now, boxing are a better example than the UFC because in boxing, people who should fight are fighting. Like Lomachenko is going to be fighting Rigandao, and those are the two guys that should be fighting. They're the two best at their weight, and it's going to be an all-time great fight. Just like Canelo versus Triple G. That was like a generational fight. Two of the greatest middleweights, light middleweights to ever do it, got together and fought. They found a way to ruin that by fucking up the scorecards and giving it a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the biggest Canelo fan there is, and I could try and give him as many points as possible, and even score his points double, like double his points as opposed to Triple G. It was still a loss. It's a loss, and it's a bad look. But they still fought. Like right now in the UFC, there's a whole lineup of dudes who've earned their spot. They've earned their title shot. They've earned their place in the conversation, and a lot of them are just going to get screwed over, just like they screwed over Jacare. Jacare earned his title shot so many times over. Yet they kept on making him fight awkward to dangerous to just absolute animals until he lost. He fell on Robert Whittaker, who's basically a human buzzsaw, and Robert Whittaker just beat the crap out of him. Just because Jacare is not, the biggest personality, and he's not as famous as someone like Vitor. McGregor has so many. I mean, it's not just McGregor. A lot of the champions have so many. There's it's just like an embarrassment of riches as far as opponents, and I mean worthy opponents. And he's doing his best to avoid them. Now he's making noises about I guess Tony's next, but for me to fight Tony, I'm gonna need a promoter spot. That's just a cop out, man. He knows they'll never give him a promoter title, so he's looking to make it impossible to fight him. It's weird though, because I think that he's deluded enough to want to eventually accept the fight and think, oh yeah, I'm just gonna tear him apart, and then get his ass handed to him. It's going to happen, whether it's Tony, whether it's Nate, whether it's Habib, whether it's Edson Barbosa. It's going to happen. Look, they're doing the same thing with Edson Barbosa and Habib. They're going to fight in, I believe it's UFC 219. And those are two, like, these guys shouldn't even have to fight. Okay, Habib, he missed weight. He made a mess. But, the guy's undefeated, and he's been worth a title shot for years. Like way back in the Anthony Pettis days, he could have easily fought Anthony Pettis for the title. It would have been a great fight too. But like it's just not good. It's not a good look. And the fact that they want to go into boxing, it's like you've already fucked up your own shit. You fucked up the UFC. The UFC is a mess right now. Like they have to go into boxing to fix up what they've done. It's like
that's where the money is.
Yeah. But it's you know what? There's money to be made in MMA as well. It's just like stop under promoting, stop treating your fighters like shit. Because if you treat your fighters like shit,
the easy money is sensational money.
Yeah, I know it's easy. Exactly, it's not real money because people who are after, since well, I'll call them sensation junkies. They're fickle. They'll move on to the next thing. Like somebody will come up with something stupid, or like some catch me outside girl, catch me outside, and they'll go on that. They're the fashion or the trend bandwagon jumpers. Something else will come up. Some I don't know, some retard will start like punching a wall, and they'll watch that. Like that's how stupid people are.
Yeah.
And that's how stupid those people are. They'll be like, "Oh my god, no one's punched a wall or banged his head against the wall like that guy's done it. Oh my god, he's the greatest." Like fuck those people. If they show up, but the people that you should be marketing to, the people you should be respecting, are the hardcore. No matter how few of us there are left, and there are few of us left because of all the bullshit you've been doing. People are just getting this, and some people actually stopped. I know some people, like people my age, people who've been watching it since the beginning, stopped watching because they just couldn't take it anymore, because they couldn't take the way they treat fighters, the way that fighters are underpaid, the way they speak about fighters. I mean, they speak about fighters the same way people used to speak about adult film stars, adult industry, porn stars back in the
Oh
day.
yeah.
Like, they're just, oh yeah, they're weird people, don't matter. And like, how are you supposed to build stars if that's how you talk about them? Like, oh yeah, they miss weight. You start talking about how they're just fuck ups. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. You don't respect your own talent. Like, you're the promoter. You're supposed to be promoting them. It's in the name. You're supposed to be promoting them, building them up into household names, superstars or stars. Superstars are very hard to find, and sometimes you can build them like they did with McLeprechaun, and it works great. But at the same time, it's killing the sport. No, it's not killing the sport. It's hurting the sport, because I believe MMA will come through it eventually. But it's just, it's tarnishing it. It's a bad look, and it's, just like the way he spoke about John Jones. I mean, John Jones is another candidate, a real one, for greatest of all time. Yes, he's made his mistakes, but for him to make those comments about him, like he completely fucked it up. When you're someone who's constantly putting his foot in his mouth, like
well, that kind of talk sells media.
Oh yeah, of course, but it's also making your promotion look bad. It's making you look bush league, like as bad and as inept and just downright stupid Roger Goodell is. He would never speak about any athlete like that. Never. And I know he probably thinks worse, but like, he at least has the understanding that, like, I'm trying to sell a product here. We're making 14 to 17 billion dollars a year, and it's just not good for business for me to, to mention a player by name and call him a drug addict or a lost cause or, a fuck up. Like, he can at least do it, like kind of somewhat politically correctly. And Roger Goodell is a complete prick, and worse, he's an inept prick. Like, he does not know what he's doing. And he's way too, he's one of these guys. He's always like, he always has to have the final word. He's petty and all that, but he will not speak ill of his talent. Like, he at least understands that. Dana doesn't get it. And all those double standards, like, they let McLeprechaun say and do whatever he wants. And yet when Colby Covington says things, I don't agree, like, just like last week's podcast, I don't agree with his views on Brazilians and what he said. I think that's kind of stupid and ignorant, but he was obviously doing a bit. And for then some WME executive, some fucking suit, gets on and says, we're really disappointed and angry about his comments. We're going to be, reviewing them. It's like, you're making yourself look even worse now, because like Connor just like 1 week before called someone the F word, and you guys didn't have shit to say. And your own president drops F bombs all the time, and he doesn't get punished and doesn't apologize. So like, what the fuck are you doing with Colby Covington? Like, how many pay-per-views do you have to sell before you can act like a prick? Because that's basically what you're saying. Like, if
yeah.
No, but that's what it is. It's like, I'd actually ask him, Like what's
I'm
the
a rich motherfucker and I can say anything I want.
what's the break off? Like 350,000, 400, maybe 500,000. Then I could start saying what I want to say. Like I don't have to hide the fact I'm a complete prick. You know what I mean? And it's embarrassing. It's not good. It's bush league. Like the NBA, they I love basketball. I love this game, but it's getting harder and harder to watch or to listen to interviews because they're all a bunch of fucking pansies. They're all a bunch of
Yeah,
fucking hypocritical millionaires, pampered
yeah.
as fuck. And
I don't
they
watch the
all
NBA until the playoffs.
right. Yeah, yeah,
And
no, it's like
only because I have to, because there's nothing else on. If there was a
right, because
if there was a girls softball game on, I'll watch that instead.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's getting to a point where these guys are just like so emo, so hipster, so full of shit. It's hard to listen to them. So I don't even listen to the interviews, but I mean, I've really been enjoying watching the Golden State Warriors. There's something special about them, and I always recognize and respect excellence, even if
Well, I
I don't
personally I
like.
appreciate a business that's well run and a
Mm.
team that produces well. And I think the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs,
Oh my God, yeah, yeah,
and the Boston Celtics,
yeah,
they're supreme. They're supreme at that, and I like
yeah,
those teams.
yeah. And the Lakers always were. Lately, they're
The
starting to come
Lakers are
back up.
all about they're all about entertainment and cash, and I really don't
And
care
glitz.
about the
No,
Lakers.
I get that, but what I'm trying to say is I was never a supporter. I always rooted against them, but I always respected their success, the fact that they could build, they could sell. Like remember how all free agents always would consider them. Always. They were always top of every free agents list because they sold this image and it worked because these guys were successful. So I respected that. And I mean, come on, let's be honest. They've had some of the greatest players play for them and come through their doors, whether it was
Yeah, and
Inglewood or the new Staples
they
Center.
had Jerry West that engineered all that, and Jerry West isn't there
Yeah.
anymore.
Jerry West is
Instead,
the
they
Golden
have
State
Magic Johnson, and I have no respect for Magic Johnson's business
as an
acumen.
executive.
None.
Well, his business acumen is amazing. He's a great businessman. It's as an executive.
I don't think so. He knows how to make a dollar. He
Yeah, he's a
doesn't know how to
billionaire, man.
he doesn't know how to give us quality entertainment in basketball.
No,
He
well, we
could give
haven't.
it
He hasn't proven it
he could
yet.
give a shit.
No, he's done a better job so far than Jim. What's his name? The guy's son, uh,
Yeah. Well,
Doctor
I'm not
Jerry.
I'm not convinced.
Oh, neither am I. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about Luke Walton. Luke Walton has something, man. Like that guy's smart. He's good. I mean, look what he did at the Golden State Warriors. Like that guy's a talented coach, and they better give him all the time he needs to rebuild because he's a great coach. He's a great coach in the making. Whether he does his greatness gets shown at the in the Staples Center or not, that's I can't tell you, but they've got themselves a great young coach, and there's some talented players on that roster. Like you can say whatever you want about LeVar Ball, but Lonzo Ball is a talented player. He really, he needs to gain some weight. He needs to put on some muscle, but he's got talent. He's got an amazing basketball brain. I'm not saying they're going to win the title tomorrow. And there's all this nonsense, this talk about, LeBron. I can't say it's nonsense because LeBron James is the most self-interested, self-centered bitch I've ever seen in American
He's a
pro sports.
narcissist.
He's the biggest narcissist, right? And they're saying that he's about to jump ship. He's about to leave Cleveland for the second time and move to the Lakers. So
Yeah.
as much as I despise him, look, I think he's an absolute like pansy. The guy is talented and just like my like the greats of yesteryear, he's the kind of player, as soon as he goes on a team, they immediately become a playoff team. And more than that, they quickly become contenders. I don't think he will ever beat the Golden State Warriors again. I mean, it took all that cheating and him whining and being a complete bitch to have a chance to beat him. And let's be honest, the Golden State Warriors just completely imploding. But he will never beat them again. I'm convinced. Like there's something like the way the Golden State Warriors were built is really special. It's truly special, truly impressive, and I think they're going to be champions for a long time to come. I think there's more of a chance that the Celtics catch up eventually,
Well, they have unselfish players.
or my Bulls. Like they're rebuilding again. Like right now, it's a really bad time to be a Bulls fan. Like they got so close with Tom Thibodeau and Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah and that team. Now they're all gone, and I mean they fucked up big time when they traded our future to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean I can't even
Yep.
remember his name, but that was like the dumbest move ever. Like we already lost everybody from the good old days. Okay, Derrick Rose, I didn't want to lose him, but he was injured, so yeah, I wasn't happy about it. But for them to trade, what's his name? That kid is good. He's seriously good. He's super talented. He's a two-way
Yeah, I
player.
know who you're
For them to,
talking about. I can't remember his name.
yeah, I can't even remember. I guess my heart is so broken. Like my brain purposely is blocking out his name so to kind of like protect my emotional side. But I'm a lifelong Chicago Bulls fan, and that's just it's hard. Like if there's one thing the Chicago Bulls front office was good at, like they didn't always treat the players well. I mean, a lot of times they treat them like shit. Like look at Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and all those guys. But they knew how to make savvy moves. Right now they can't even do that, and it's really. I mean, like they the coach they hired is just a moron. I mean, he makes Tim Floyd look smart. But anyways, like I digress. We're talking about basketball. This is MMA, so. But that's basically everything I just said is what the UFC are doing. They're just making one mistake after another. Like right now, this weekend, we're just days away from the biggest event of the year. Like, I mean, 2014 was amazing. It was an amazing event, one of the greatest events in UFC history. It had everything. And yet they underpromoted it. It did great numbers, but they underpromoted it like heck. Like, because they were so busy, doing everything they could to promote
Well,
that
if they
exhibit.
promote it, that costs some money. They don't like spending money.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous. Like you have to spend money to make money. You just have to, especially when you've
Oh,
got that big a card. Like that card has 1.1, 1.3, maybe even 1.4 million pay-per-view buys written all over it if you promote it right. Like, and you have to promote it because there's a lot of ignoramuses out there. Like Fringe, you have to promote it for them. Like the hardcores will be there. The hardcores will be there anytime. I mean, there's Joanna versus Rose Namajunas, Thug Rose. You've got fucking Cody Garbrandt, a future superstar if they promote him properly, versus TJ Dillashaw, one of the greatest bantamweights ever put on this earth. Like that guy is just amazing. He's like a fucking anime come to life. Like this guy's amazing. He's a ninja turtle. And they're not even promoting them. You barely heard from them. And then of course you got GSP versus Michael the Cunt Bitchping. That's a big fight. It's a bullshit fight. It's a big fight. It's the return of the legend, the greatest welterweight that's ever lived. And even they are under promoted. Like they're talking about him more and more. That's good, but they should have been promoting that shit months ago. They should have been starting to promote that shit 3 months ago, just like they would do for Mick Leprechaun, his fake, interim belts and all that crap. So, yeah, man, it's just it's hard. It's hard to see because I love the sport. I always will. I'm not walking away, but it's also very easy to see why Bellator have caught up so much. And if they keep going, like within a year or two, Bellator will actually end up as the dominant force in MMA. And it's not just Bellator. There's other promotions being formed as we speak, and some of them have a lot of backing. They might not have the talent, but they have a lot of financial backing. Financial backing means you can pay fighters a lot more. So that's a risk. ACB are backed by I think he's Uzbek billionaire, and that guy's worth like nearly 20 billion, and like money's no object to him. He's not even looking to make a profit off of that. off of Absolute Championship Berkut. They've already, I think they're up to 75 events, and his tagline is less talk, more fight. That's like, if that doesn't tell you I'm coming after you because you've lost your way, then I don't know what is. I mean, there's ONE FC. They're going from strength to strength. They're backed by, they're the biggest Asian promotion around, and they're based out of Singapore, and they've got some amazing fighters, and they're not afraid to move with the times. They're not afraid to, and they're gonna end up with some big fighters. Then you've got Ryzen. Ryzen is a bit different. They're the Japanese promotion that's risen out of Pride's ashes, and they do freak show fights, fun fights, and the Saka Kabaro is as experienced and savvy as they come. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he was savvy enough to do business with the Yakuza and live to tell the tale, and to fuck over Dana and his cronies, by the way. Because when he sold them Pride, he sold Pride for $70 million and basically sold them nothing, just video rights and some DVDs. Like, he didn't sell them the rights to any fighters, basically. All the Pride fighters were free to go wherever they wanted. And most of them did, until the UFC, caught up with each and every one of them individually and signed them to contracts. But that's Saka Kabara for you. And, so things are starting to change.
Are you there, Cyrus? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just shutting up for a second because I've been ranting for a while.
I heard a click and I thought maybe we lost each other.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you still think Rose is going to give Joanna a good fight?
Oh yeah, I think it will. I think it's going to be an amazing fight. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be blood and guts. And I'm like, Joanna is obviously the favorite and deserves to be, but like, I'm not going to call this fight. I'm really not, because there's something about Rose. I mean, I've been a fan of hers from day one, since she was in the Invicta. There's something about her, even when she was green and she was losing to like the most experienced fighters. Like, she'd win most of her fights, but she'd lose to people like Tisha Torres, and but now she's just like, every time I see her, she gets better. And she's one of these fighters, like, even when she loses, it's really close, and you could make an argument that she won, but she just gets better with every win or every defeat. She comes better, and she never stops. She doesn't stay still. And she's got that ferocious, that anger, that drive. And she's just not a girl that will quit. So it's going to be violent, and they obviously don't like each other. And she's very, very, very good on the ground. Like, if she manages to get Joanna down, or Joanna slips, like, she could be in, she could give Joanna some serious trouble on the ground. Like, Joanna's takedown defense is amazing. Her takedown defense is just, it's something to behold. It's almost as good as Jose Aldo's is, but like, once you get her down and you're a top grappler, you can't keep her down. She's always managed to avoid submissions, and she's really good at getting back up. But Rose is on a different level on the ground. Like, she's an amazing grappler, and she's a grinder. So, it's going to be a rough fight. It's going to be a really rough, violent. It's probably going to be one of the most violent women's fights in years.
I can't wait to see it.
I can't wait to see it either. I can't wait to see Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw go at each other either. There's a lot of good fights on that card, man. There's freaking
they don't like each other, do they?
Cody and TJ? Oh no, they hate each other.
Yeah.
Cody's the kind of guy, like, even if he doesn't hate you, if you're fighting him, he's gonna go ape shit on you. He's just, he's an animal. I fucking love that guy. But I mean, there's so many good fights on that card, Jim. I mean, for Christ's sakes, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Gamebred versus Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. I mean, who wouldn't pay? That could, If the UFC were doing their jobs properly, that could headline any pay-per-view, title fight or no title fight. That's a clash of styles, a clash of personalities. It's an amazing fight, and people are barely talking about it for obvious reasons because it's under promoted. But that's an amazing fight. I mean, I'm looking at the fight card as we speak. I'm looking it up, and there's a ton of good fights. There's a ton of good fights. I mean, even I mean, he's been fucking up lately and just being a complete loon and a head case, but you can't deny that he's a great fighter. He's Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks is fighting Borrachinha. That's a big fight.
I'm not familiar with Borrachinha.
Yeah, Borrachinha is a new kid on the block as far as middleweight. He's ferocious. He's unbeaten. And he's a future superstar, honestly. I mean, his full name is Paulo Enrique Costa. And he's nasty, man. You've got James Vick versus Joseph Duffy. Joseph Duffy was the last guy to beat McLeprechaun. He beat him in like 30 seconds when they were both fighting for Cage Warriors. And he's an amazing fighter. He's only lost once in the UFC, twice overall. Then you've got James Vick, who's only lost once. And those are two long, gangly lightweights, like super tall and super long. I mean, both of these guys are actually like James Vick is like, I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", which is just immense for a lightweight and super long. Joseph Duffy is like 6'1" and super long limb too. And they're both amazing grapplers. Then you got Walt Harris versus Mark Godbeer. That's no box office fight, but Walt Harris is a nasty striker. He hits hard. You've got Alexei Olenek, a guy who once submitted the great Fedor Emelianenko versus Curtis Blades, who's an up-and-comer. You've got Corey Anderson versus Ovens Saint-Preux. That's a good fight any day, especially like Ovens is just a spectacular fighter. But you got a ton of good fights, man. And it's going to be a great card, and it's been under-promoted. So, we'll see. We'll see where we end up. We'll see who wins. We'll see. I've already made my predictions and my picks, but we need more of that. We need more like real MMA, unless like McLeprechaun, could he like they tried to match him up with Paulie Malignaggi, and I have nothing against Paulie. Paulie's an amazing boxer. He's doing a great job as an analyst, but I don't want to see if he wants to fight Paulie Malignaggi, good for him. Strip him. The fact that he even
are they about the same size people?
No, Connor's quite a bit bigger, but that's not going to do him any good. I mean, he was a lot bigger than Floyd. Like when it comes to boxing, it's not going to do him any good at all. But yeah, he's Paulie's a small
Malignaggi dude. Malignaggi is not Floyd Mayweather.
No, he's not, but he's still a very, very good fighter. Like he's an amazing fighter. Like he had a lot of skill. He's no, of course not. He'll tell you himself, but like freaking Connor is like he's not even a decent boxer. Like
he's not a very good boxer.
Like that's what I'm trying to say is he's like I always thought he was a decent boxer, but he's not. Like you watch him, and I mean to be a good boxer, a decent boxer at least has cardio. A decent boxer at least has heart. A decent boxer can last like 12 rounds no problem, and he couldn't even do that. And then I mean like it was embarrassing at times. Like he grappled in there. It wasn't even good grappling, but he'd hang on his back. He'd punch him from the back, like he'd grab him around the waist and then punch him from behind his back. He'd fucking hammer fist every chance he got. It's just like he's not even like we've got some good, decent boxers in the UFC. You've got here we go, Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt is a Golden Gloves boxer. So is Stipe Miocic. You got the Diaz brothers. These guys can get in the ring. They wouldn't beat world champions, but they wouldn't be disgraced. And I put good money on the fact they wouldn't get knocked out either. They might be stopped because of bleeding, because they do suffer cuts, but I don't think they get knocked out. I mean, Nate trained with Andre Ward for years, and Andre Ward himself said like he held his own. So you've got some decent boxers, but Conor isn't even decent. He's not even close to being decent. He's an embarrassment in there. Just because he's famous, you're going to allow him to take on boxers? Still, you know what? Fine by me. Strip him. Stop mortgaging.
Well, I think if, of course, Dana is poo-pooing the idea, but I think Malignaggi and Conor could sell tickets.
Oh yeah. No, it would, because that you've got the narrative, the whole, the whole what they did to him was out of line. But they got a lot of airtime. People talked about it. I mean,
in fact, I think it would make more money than any MMA contest,
except for Nate Diaz.
Well,
Nate Diaz,
yeah,
Conor McGregor Part 3 would be huge. It could be like outside of Ronda versus Cyborg, Ronda versus Gina. I think Ronda versus Gina would be the biggest fight / pay-per-view in UFC history. It would be like, I think they'd have a chance to get to 3 million, because this is how famous.
Ronda versus who?
Gina Carano. Like Gina Carano. I
don't know her.
Have you ever seen Haywire?
Carano, yeah. Okay, yeah, I know Carano. Her, yeah.
Yeah, freaking love that woman, man. I mean, she was awesome as a fighter. But then she ran into the buzzsaw that was Cyborg and never came back. A big part of it was like there was no money in MMA. Like she was making like 3, 4, 5 times the money in Hollywood that she do as fighting. So it was like, yeah, it's an easy choice to make, isn't it? But she loves being an actress, and good luck to her. She's such a cool chick. She did her time. Like she was the first superstar in women's MMA. Like she put women's MMA on the map. It became acceptable. It became mainstream. Or, like she put it on TV. And then Ronda took it to the next level. She got women in the UFC. I mean, that's amazing on her own. And God bless her for that. And then she took it to the next level. Like she was a superstar. She's probably the biggest superstar MMA has ever had, which is amazing. But yeah, like I think right now, especially because they've over promoted him, McGregor McLeprechaun versus Nate Diaz Part 3 would be the biggest fight, and I think it would be bigger than Paulie Malignaggi. The one fight it wouldn't be bigger than would be like Conor versus Triple G or Conor versus Canelo, but that never will happen and shouldn't happen because these guys would actually kill him. And it definitely wouldn't be bigger than Conor versus Mayweather if they ever fought again, which I don't think will happen. But you never say never. Like apparently, I don't know what's true anymore, but like Dana keeps insisting that the pay-per-view, the Mayweather versus McLeprechaun did 6.5. So of course, 6.5 million pay-per-view buys. I think the truth is probably closer to 5. Maybe it did break the all-time record, but Showtime,
he can't prove it, and he can say anything he wants to say.
Well, he does, anyways, and most of it are lies. I think it might have been close. I mean, from what Stephen F. Spinoza said, it came close to the all-time record, which is right around 4.6, 4.7, but it didn't quite match it. So it's just under. It's like the second biggest pay-per-view in history for what he said. But then again, like he's more the kind of guy to pull his punches, to like say it's less than it is, and then for whatever reason. But then for Dana to say it did 6.5 million buys and no one else to corroborate is kind of weird. So yeah, but it obviously did a lot. It obviously was a very successful event, exhibition, circus, clown show. But yeah. No, it's an embarrassment to fighting to call that a fight, but whatever. We had fun covering it. We had fun discussing it. I mean, we talked about that thing for a long time. It was funny. I'm glad it's over, and I'm glad Mayweather is riding off into the sunset. I mean, that guy's the greatest boxer ever, and I don't think he needs to come back. I mean, he's made enough money, and his legacy is secure. I mean, his legacy was secure like 10 years ago. So whatever, like I don't
Well, he
begrudge him
got
that.
his 50. He got his 50 wins,
Yeah.
and there's anybody that he should rightfully challenge or should rightfully fight right now. We'll kick the shit out of him. So he's not gonna box anybody.
Yeah, well, he did his time. He beat like
Yeah, he did his time, but he's not coming back to fight a bona
yeah, and
fide
he fought
boxer
everybody. He
because
didn't duck
you know,
anybody. There's no one out there that can say, "Oh, Mayweather ducked me. I was legitimate." Like every dangerous fighter. I mean, he even moved up in weight. He fought at a weight that he should have never fought at. Floyd is 5'8". He fought at light middleweight. Let that sink in. When he fought Canelo, when he fought Cotto, and when he fought Oscar, he fought at light middleweight. That guy has no business at light middleweight, and he did it, and he beat them all. So you can't say anything. People just try and mess around because he's Mayweather and it's fun to hit on him. But the truth is the truth. He fought everybody. He fought at the very least, three different generations of the greatest welterweights / light middleweights that have ever lived. Everyone that was ranked, everyone that was awkward, everyone that was dangerous
yeah,
tried.
we're not
And
gonna we're
yeah,
not gonna see Floyd anymore
yeah, I hope not. I hope not.
unless he runs into tax problems again.
I think his tax problems are way behind him. I mean, they're saying like he could have made 500 million off that fight when it's all said and done. So I think he's going to be good. And he's never even like yeah, whatever. Like I don't want to talk about money, but yeah, I think he's good. But like what I'm looking for hope here, but it's like it's hard. I think I'm getting to a point where I'm beginning to think like maybe the UFC is going to have to go under for MMA to flourish. Because right now, like every time a legitimate, like elite fighter hits the free agent market, he leaves. He goes to Bellator, he goes to ACB, or sometimes they go to ONE FC because it's like just like Gegard said, and Gegard is legit. I mean, he's an MMA legend. He's fought everybody. He's fought he fought Mark Hunt at heavyweight. That guy's amazing. He's a legend. Kickboxing, MMA, whatever, grappler. He's just an amazing talent. And he went to Bellator and he said it wasn't of course it was the money because they were going to pay him right and they were going to pay him a lot of money, like which he should be getting paid because he's a legend. But he said the ultimate reason what did it for me is they promised me like if I get there, I will immediately fight for the title. If I win, like whatever fights they tell me, like whether it's one fight or two fights or three fights, if I beat, X, zero, and whatever, I will get to a title shot. And they promised me. Whether he said he knew for a fact that the UFC would have never allowed him to fight for the title against Bichming. So he left, and it's happening more and more. Like, watch it; it's gonna happen. Like, eventually, they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose someone like very valuable to them, and I don't know. I'm getting to the point where, like, when Rory left, Dana basically slandered him and said, "Oh yeah, he's no good. He'll never be the same again." Like, basically trying to tell all and sundry he's damaged goods, which is really disgusting when you think like the fights Rory put on, and that guy will be missed, and he is being missed because the welterweight division is a mess with Tyron Woodley being, basically being behaving like Miss Jackson from the song, and being, egg kinds of bitch. It's just not, and that weight class has always been the champagne weight class of the UFC. It's always been their bread and butter because there's always been personalities. There's always been a lot of talent, a lot of, contenders. Just like, I mean, it's not even a lot. I'm talking about it's a crowded room. full of contenders every day. I mean, look at Darren Till. Like, give him 1 or 2 fights, and he'll be fighting for a title. And he could legitimately, after what he did to Cowboy, you give him one or two more ranked opponents, and he's right there. I mean, he's already ranked 8th, isn't he? So he's not far, and he's a sensational talent. I'm not saying he will win the title, but it's just like what he's done so far is amazing. And every day, I mean, you've got whether you love him or loathe him, Mike Perry is no joke, and he's an animal, and he's a personality. He's a future superstar. They groom him, if they promote him properly. There's a lot of time. I mean, this Kamaru Usman, the guy who calls him, I think it's the dumbest nickname ever, but he calls himself the Nigerian Nightmare. And he's a stud wrestler. He's getting better and better. His striking is, I mean, he actually knocked out Sergio Moraes. Sergio Moraes is no joke, and he knocked him out cold. So that's really, that's basically like meritocracy needs to come back. They need to wake up, but I have this feeling they won't. And I have a feeling they'll only wake up when it's too late, when Bellator take over or, some other promotion. But I mean, Bellator run by Scott Coker, so I can see them catching up. And they've already caught up exponentially, like unbelievably. I thought it would take like up to 10 years. This is, I think, Scott Coker's 2nd or 3rd year, and I mean they're really close. They're getting closer every day. So we'll see.
I try to watch Bellator when I can. It's not on TV very much, but I try to watch it when I can.
Yeah, no, you got them on Spike. It's free. I mean, they're going into the pay-per-view business now, so but like they have an event almost every weekend. They even do events at NASCAR, which is kind of quaint and cool. But I mean, they're not the only ones. I mean, in Poland, they have a promotion called KSW, and it's just amazing. It's more pride, it's more of pageantry, and it's almost like a Middle Ages fair, like a medieval state fair, but it's still a lot of fun. And like whenever the UFC come to Poland, they're a distant second. Nothing's bigger in Poland than KSW. You've got like Russian promotions being born every day. Some of them you just don't want to have anything to do with because they're funded by tyrants. But I mean, ACB is cool. M1 is the oldest one. I mean, M1 is almost as old as the UFC itself, and they're going from strength to strength. You've got fight nights. You've got you've got like a ton of fight nights. Russia is amazing. And people are starting to come back to promoting, like starting to open big promotions and getting, paying top fighters really good money, like money they should have been paid from the beginning. So we'll see where this goes. But if they don't wake up soon, they're going to wake up with their rivals lording it over them, because it's just getting more and more ridiculous, man. It's getting laughable now. It was ridiculous before. Now it's just like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? And it's almost like, people are like almost expecting them to do something stupid. Like people are expecting them to make the Diaz McLeprechaun fight now because like, oh, it will sell more pay-per-views,
No, they won't do that until after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So you don't see McLeprechaun fighting again this year then, right?
No, I think he's going to fight Ferguson in December, I think.
Oh, you think he'll fight this year? Pardon me.
Well, I think that's what they were planning.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's the idea.
But I'm pretty sure that Ferguson is going to be next, no matter what McTapper is saying or not.
But the thing is,
if he doesn't fight Ferguson, they're going to lose some fans.
Oh my God, yeah, they will. But at the same time, it all depends on, like, they've lost a ton of fans since WME. I mean, they lost a ton of fans before that because of some of the nonsense they started. And
Tony's going to be next, and in fact, I thought they had something going on in December.
Yeah, they got 2 cards. They've got 2 pay-per-view cards, 2 big pay-per-view cards. They got 2.
Yeah, but I thought that Tony and McTapper were going to be headliners.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If they fight, it'll headline whatever pay-per-view they end up on, whether it's 218
Yeah.
or 219 or 220.
Well, I see McTapper fighting Nate sometime after the Super Bowl.
Whether he has the belt or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if he does fight Tony Ferguson, which I really hope he does, like, it might take him a lot longer than that to recover because Tony puts a beating on people. He puts a real beating, unless Tony like just chokes him out right away, which he's more than capable of. I have a feeling like Tony's kind of pissed off. Tony's fed up with the
I
ill
think that's
treatment.
how it's going to end. I think Tony submits him.
Yeah, not before beating the crap out of him. Like Tony could easily do that. He'd be within his rights. Like, play with him a little. Some people like to play with their food. I got
I'd
that
love to
feeling
see
from,
Connor with some stitches in his face.
yeah, he's not that far away from it happening. I think he had some after fighting Chad Mendes, and he beat Chad Mendes, but he took a beating in that fight, and it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen eventually because he's gotten away with it so far. Like even when Nate beat the crap out of him, when he beat him.
Just think of it, Cyrus, how long uh, McTapper's gotten away with this shtick of his. It's been over a year.
Yeah,
He's gotten away with this shit.
it's been nearly 3 years because he started. I remember like I started really hearing from him to the point where it was like annoying in 2014. Like right around February, March 2014, he started and he hasn't stopped since. And he's been, just like, just like a delusional leprechaun pimp on steroids. So,
Why don't you just fucking say what you want to say, Cyrus?
right? I need to stop being so, turning
Critical?
Yeah, I need to stop being so how do you say, like holding back and running around in circles and stuff and being so diplomatic and more direct. Yeah, that'll be my New Year's resolution, I guess. Be more direct. Say what's really on your mind, Cyrus.
Oh God,
Anyways,
New Year's will be here before you know it.
right. Started on that. Anyways, I think that's, unless you wanted to add something, I think we're getting close to the end of the podcast, man.
No, I got nothing to add, Cyrus.
Yeah, well, I guess we're gonna call it a night, and we'll have a reaction. Well, we might if you guys are around, we might have a live pod. We might go live the night of the fights on Saturday. If you're around, Jim, if you want to do it, we might
When
break
would that
down
be?
Saturday evening. Well, that's when
Saturday?
UFC 217 kicks off. Yeah, we could
Oh,
do that if you guys wanted to.
I'll be around Saturday.
Okay, we could do that. Well, we'll definitely have a fight recap, because that's the biggest card of the year, and it's a historic fight because I mean, it's historic in the sense that GSP, a legend, is back, so we can recap all those great fights. I mean, this, I already mentioned all the great fights that's going to be. So let's do a breakdown, a recap. But until then, you got any last words? Any parting shots for us, Jim, or are you good?
No, nothing really. It did my heart good to get some of this UFC crap out of the way.
Right, me too, man.
I've been wanting to say a few things about Dana and his phenomenal, sensational
Ways.
bullshit.
Bullshit. Yeah, man. And yeah, well, I'll just say this. You guys, you got to check out Captain Israel. Captain's Corner on YouTube. Pro Israel on Tumblr. Check her out. Captain Israel, Captain's Corner on the Twitter, on the Facebook, and on other social media. She's excellent, but definitely like and subscribe her podcast, Captain's Corner on YouTube. It's excellent, and she's going to be releasing more content. So definitely check her out. And we wish you good night. We'll see you soon. From Jim, from Cyrus, we're out. This was Soul of a Fighter. podcast. Bye, fighters. For fighters. Good night.